Welcome, my friends of the interwebs, and a very special welcome and congratulations to the newly minted Kentucky Colonel, SupaFlyFatGuy859. That is correct. Paul is now a Colonel of the Commonwealth, and a fine colonel, I may add. I just got the news today from him that the governor had accepted my recommendation that Paul be commissioned a colonel, and then went ahead and commissioned him. So Paul was commissioned by the Honorable Governor of the Commonwealth of Kentucky, Stephen L. Beshear. What you're looking at in this video is my commission. For those of you who do not know, the only way you can become a Kentucky Colonel is you have to be nominated by somebody who holds the rank of Kentucky Colonel, and that person then nominates the person who he feels to be worthy to the governor of Kentucky, and then it's up to the governor whether or not to commission that person. So, bottom line, here's the way that worked. I commissioned Paul. It went to the governor's office. The governor approved it, and now Paul is a colonel. And it is quite an honor. I will tell you this. A lot of people don't really understand what goes on, but for a Kentuckian, there is no higher honor. There is no higher honor to be bestowed upon a Kentuckian other than that of the title of Kentucky Colonel. Okay, yada, yada, yada. Paul was overwhelmed, blindsided by this. I never told him that I was going to nominate him. And most people I never do. I mean, the people who I've nominated, most of the time, I never tell them. Part of that is because there's always that chance, slim as it may be, that the governor will say no, you know, and I never want to get people's hopes up. That's just a fact. I mean, and it does happen. I mean, a lot of people think it's just a rubber stamp, but the truth is that there are people who don't pass the muster for whatever reason. So thankfully, the governor's seen it my way. I did write up a pretty nice deal for Paul, to be honest with you. Paul doesn't think he's worthy. Of course, most of the great Kentucky Colonels never feel like they were worthy of being nominated, and damn sure don't feel like they were ever worthy of being commissioned. But I'm going to state my case for Paul. And this is really for Paul to understand what I was thinking when I nominated him. Now, listen, every colonel has the right to nominate anybody that they choose for whatever reason. I know people who were nominated for their contributions to the Boy Scouts of America. I know people who were nominated for spending 30 years as an educator teaching elementary school. I know people who were honored because they wrote a really great song and had became a star. You know, there's lots of reasons why people are nominated. And there's lots of reasons why, you know, the governor commissions people. But I will tell you, for me, when I looked at Paul, okay, I've known Paul for a very, very long time. In YouTube time, I've known him for like a gazillion years. But I know him pretty well, and I know what a contributor to the online community he is. I know that, well, listen, a lot of people are going to think this is crazy, but I believe this to be true. Although Paul wasn't with YouTube at the beginning, like people like me, and well, several of us were there from the very beginning, in the grand scheme of things, in the timeline of history, Paul will still be considered one of the pioneers of social networking. That is a fact. SupaFlyFatGuy859 is truly a pioneer when it comes to social networking, as all of us are. You know, in the grand, like I said, in the grand timeline of history. Paul, to me, represents Kentucky, and he does it well. Okay, listen, I've grown up with Kentucky. My dad was born and raised in Mockingbird Holler in 4 Mile, Kentucky. I still own a house in that holler. I still have lots of land in Kentucky. My whole life, I have dealt with people's stereotypes. Most of the time it's funny, and I embrace it, but the truth of the matter is that when people think of Kentucky, most people think of hillbillies. That's what they think of. They think of somebody manning the moonshine still. Well, the great thing about Paul is Paul breaks that stereotype. Paul is somebody, first of all, he's a young guy, he's still in his 20s, but he represents somebody that is on the cutting edge with technology. He obviously is a big-time blogger. He's a prolific video maker. And he is somebody that, in my opinion, represents the Commonwealth in spades. He just does. He really does. I personally feel like when I think of Kentucky, I would rather people think of of SupaFlyFatGuy859 as opposed to, the stereotype. That's exactly how I feel about it. And I want people to know, listen, historians need to know that when the internet was booming and social engineering was still in its infancy, Kentucky was well represented. Okay, SupaFlyFatGuy859 was right there in the trenches. He was right there in the front lines, and he was representing Kentucky. And there are some outstanding YouTubers from Kentucky, and I glory all of them. Colonel Will Hoyt comes to mind. Listen. The list of Kentuckians is long, but I will tell you that one of the greatest ones going is SupaFlyFatGuy859, and is absolutely worthy of being a Kentucky colonel. And that's how I feel about it, Paul. I mean, I really feel it in deep down in my heart. I think that you represent Kentucky extremely well. I think that, like I said, when historians look back at this particular time and they look at what was going on with social networking and the internet, and the world becoming so much smaller, it still blows my mind that I have conversations with people like Colonel Stephen Hayes in England or Colonel Shun in Japan. And literally, it's just, I've had conversations. It's amazing to me that that's how small the world has become. And we are all on the forefront of it. And I'm very, very, very proud to know somebody from Kentucky that is literally repping. He's repping Kentucky, and he's doing a fine job of it. And I think going forward, Paul gets it. He understands that the title of Kentucky Colonel is much greater than he is. It's much greater than I am. And it's something that once you achieve, once you become a Kentucky colonel, once you're honored with that commission from the governor, you literally you live up to it. Exactly what you have to do. Don't get me wrong, you're going to falter. I do all the time. But it should encourage you to become even greater. It should encourage you to help more of your fellow man. And I've watched you, Paul, over the years. You are an extremely supportive person. You have went out of your way. You talk about how I help people. Listen, you do the same thing. I've watched it. And listen, I'm very proud and honored to consider you a friend. I'm very proud and honored to know you. And I feel like all real Kentuckians, true Kentuckians will look at you and they will be proud of you. So anyway, I'm not going to keep babbling on about all this. I just did want to say congratulations, Paul. You are very worthy. Do not think for a second that you're not. And, just keep doing your thing. Keep doing your thing. If you have any questions, by the way, of what it is to be a Kentucky, here's the thing, before I let everybody go. There is the Honorable Order of Kentucky Colonels, which is a charitable organization made up of Kentucky Colonels, and then there are Kentucky Colonels. So when the governor commissions you a Kentucky Colonel, you are automatically in the club as far as the Honorable Order. Okay, but you're not responsible to interact with them. It's not a mandatory thing. Let's just put it that way. It's just a way for Kentucky Colonels to get together. Now, listen, the Honorable Order of Kentucky Colonels does a very good job of organizing charitable events. There's a lot of things that they put together, like, well, we won't get into all that, but there's a lot of really cool stuff that they do. They have a nice swag store if you want a hat or two, some T-shirts, whatever, coasters, whatever. They sell a lot of stuff with Kentucky Colonel on it. Get you that license plate. Now, if I was in Kentucky, I would damn sure have a Kentucky Colonel license plate. I really would. I'm in Ohio, so I don't get to do that, unfortunately. Ohio has talked about having a reciprocity thing with Kentucky in regards to that and having that on the license plates. But I think that might confuse people. I'd have Ohio license plates with Kentucky Colonel on it, so I don't know. Anyway, listen, Paul, congratulations. You were very worthy. I'm honored to know you, and I'm very honored to know that I was a part of you becoming a Kentucky Colonel. And in the future, when you feel confident enough to do it, I encourage you to seek out others that are worthy of the same honor and try to help them become Kentucky Colonel. So anyway, that's all I got for you, Paul. You take care. Everybody else take care. See ya.